Thank you for listening to another episode of TeeVo and the Beard. This episode has been brought to you in part by social support from Mark Gunn. Find out more about the Celt Father at markgunn.com and look him up on iTunes under Irish and Celtic Music Podcast. It's also been brought to you by support from Blame Your Brother Podcast. You can find out more about them at bybpod.com. And also, of course, we'd like to thank all of our lovely listeners. Thank you and enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of TeeVo and the Beard.
You can't see it, but I am TeeVo, and that is the Beard, and it is horror in August.
It is. We have a special guest.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Ghost?
Greetings and salutations.
This is the one we call Mike.
Yes.
And you can feel free to call him the same thing.
Yes.
He might not answer, though.
Yes. Spirit, ghost, being, entity.
Right.
Whichever.
Level 5 spectral disturbance.
Exactly.
Oh. I didn't know you got a promotion there.
Oh, well, I was up in New York buying some Crystal Skull vodka, and Dan Aykroyd told me I leveled up.
Oh.
That'll always, and if he says it, it is official.
It is.
So, but before we talk to our guest, we have the special announcement of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming back earlier.
Yes, because what are we if we don't talk about anything S.H.I.E.L.D. related?
Right, yes.
So originally, they told us it will not come back until 2018 in January.
Which made us very sad.
Very sad. But, at the same time, we're like, well, at least there will be no break.
Right.
We thought,
Yeah.
like, you cannot have a break.
Yeah.
Well, now, there will be a break because they will be coming back sooner.
Yes.
So once the Inhumans finish their 8-episode run, S.H.I.E.L.D. will be right back to where it is.
Right.
Well, technically not right back because it'll still be on Friday, but...
Right, yeah. And we'll get a shiny 22 episodes from this.
Yes. And I don't know if you know, but there is a new cast member.
I did not know. Okay, so we're all learning something today.
Yes. There's a new cast member. The actor's name is Jeff Ward.
Okay.
And all they said was he plays a mysterious recurring character.
Okay.
So work with that with what it is.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. Of course,
no idea what he's doing.
Of course, Mrs. The Beard is very happy that S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming back early.
Yes.
So she's of course disappointed that she won't see her boyfriend Brett Dalton in it.
That we know of. Because last year, looked like the end of it, and they found a way. So
And also, unless you know something I don't, we don't know if this is going to be split into 2 parts or split into 3 parts, like this past season was.
They really haven't said much.
Yeah, I love the Entertainment Weekly interview with Jed and all of them.
Yeah,
it's very much the answers were like, yeah, good question.
Good question. It could.
Yeah,
not.
Yeah,
it's a good idea.
Who knows?
Maybe
that's a nice season 5 question there.
But we, we are loyal to their Instagrams and social medias. We see them filming.
Yeah.
What are they filming? I don't know.
No clue.
But they shown the guy, so he's there, so it's real.
Because as we've mentioned before, Marvel is very good about hiding their cards, where DC goes, hey, here's the new Flash out costume.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yeah.
But today is not about that today.
It's not. No, today we have our special ghost today.
We have a special review of a type of movies we don't normally do.
Yeah. So, what are you going to be reviewing for us today, one we call Mike?
So, I am here to talk about the summer horror release Wish Upon. Because, when you're releasing a horror movie in the summer, that's a quality product.
Now, here's the thing. So, the one we call Mike gave me his personal review of this, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So
I think the previews make it look hilarious.
So naturally, I said you have to do this for the show.
Yeah, because watching the previews, I had zero desire to see this in theaters.
So
I barely have any desire to see it when it comes to Netflix.
So what's the basic rundown of the film?
So basic rundown of the film is you've got a girl.
And feel free to be a spoiler as you want.
All right, good. Yeah. I mean, the trailer kind of spoils itself, but what you have is a girl named Claire who...
She seems like the outcast, the one.
Oh yeah, no, she's the outcast. I mean, one of her best friends is Barb from Stranger Things, looking just like Barb.
Nice.
So that's nice.
But already starting with the tropes.
Got a dead mom.
Yeah,
because her father is Ryan Phillippe, who's like a bearded dumpster diver. Like his job is literally.
I was about to say, please tell me he's an alcoholic.
No, he's not an alcoholic, but he is a jazz musician.
Close enough.
So yeah, but he's a dumpster diver. Like he like those guys like American Pickers. They go through the trash and they find stuff, and they'll either like repurpose it.
So that's why there's a scene, the big scene in the trailer where she and Ryan Phillippe are looking through the garbage.
Yeah,
and they find
they find a box, and in the film you come to learn it's a Chinese wish box, or at least that's what they call it. I have no idea if that's a legitimate thing in Chinese lore or whatnot.
Somebody leave a comment and let us know.
Yeah. But when working with the box, she realizes that you can make wishes on it.
Okay. And in horror movies, nothing ever goes wrong when you make wishes.
It's a combination of two kinds of films, which I'll get to in a second. It's a combination of Wishmaster and Final Destination. So
if I wasn't not sold on it before, I'm definitely not now.
Do not like those films?
I don't, especially not Final Destination.
Really?
I assume people are familiar with Final Destination with death stalking you. Yeah. For those who don't know, Wishmaster is about a genie that when you make wishes, he will grant them for you, but usually in an ironically horrible way. For example, a cancer patient wishes to have his pain taken away, so the genie just kills him.
Right.
Your pain's gone.
So very monkey paw.
Oh, it's very much the monkey's paw. Yeah. Like there's definitely that. But at first she doesn't realize that every time she makes a wish, someone dies.
Okay.
So, she makes a wish and her crazy uncle dies. But what makes this movie interesting and where I get the Final Destination from is the kind of insane and absurd nature that these deaths come in.
But this is PG-13, right?
It's PG-13. Oh. Yes. It is PG-13, so you don't...
They couldn't go fully into Final Destination.
No, you can't go like full super gore kind of thing, but...
Right.
I'll give you an example. Like her crazy uncle, we'll get back... her first wish is for the popular girl who bullies her to literally rot. She literally says, I wish she would rot. Which then leads to a hilarious scene where the girl wakes up from a slumber party and has like black scales on her skin because again PG-13, so you can't actually show rotting flesh.
Right.
But it also leads to her best friend Instagramming it,
of course,
while she's freaking out because shallow teenagers.
Yeah.
But to have that wish happen, her crazy uncle dies, and the way he dies is he's getting into the bath. He's an old man. He's going to take a bath. Hits his head on the water spigot.
Yeah.
But that's not enough. You'd think, that's how he dies.
Yeah,
no,
because that's not too original.
I would probably die from that.
No, what happens is he's unconscious and the water's filling up around him, so you think, maybe he's going to drown. No, it plugs up his nose. He does that thing where you gasp for breath, hits his head again, and that's what kills him.
Okay.
So it's the elaborate nonsense.
Yeah.
Another one is her neighbor, which they kind of stole straight from one of the first Final Destinations with a little twist. She's cooking dinner. You think she's going to stick her hand into the garbage disposal because she drops her. I think it's like her ring or her bracelet. Something falls off, and that's what happens. And she's going for it, but then the stove, the fire. She's got a gas stove. The fire starts jumping up, so she turns around to try and turn it off. Her hair gets caught in the garbage disposal, which all of a sudden turns on, pulling her backwards, and she snaps her neck on the kitchen counter.
Okay, that's a good classic one. Though.
So nice and kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. And also why I don't like garbage disposals, though.
But I mean, and they're all like that. Yeah. The only death that's not like that is the non-wish death, where Claire chucks Barb down the stairs. Because Barb is trying to take the wish box from her, because at this point, they figured out that, when you make wishes, it kills people. And it's literally become like a drug addiction, to where she won't give it up.
So does Barb have to die in everything she's in? Or
it seems like it, at least so far. But then there's also the hilarious fake out deaths. Ryan Phillippe gets one of those.
You told me about this one. This sounds hilarious.
This is great
because when you have movies like these, I feel nothing makes sense.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, we already don't make sense with the evil wish box.
Yeah, normal, common human sense goes out the window. And I don't know if this was a mistake by the cinematographer that they just left in, or this is what they were actually going for. So one of her wishes is that her father would be, quote, less of an embarrassment. So he shaves the beard and goes back to playing jazz rather than dumpster diving.
Now, as two bearded hosts here, how do you feel about that being.
I'm upset that the idea of having a beard is part of the being an embarrassment.
Yeah.
But it is a pretty strong like hobo beard.
Okay, so it's not welcome.
It's the depressed hobo beard.
Okay,
so he didn't look like 90s.
No, not until he shaved.
Yeah.
So he's driving to a jazz concert. He's driving to a gig, and he gets a flat tire.
Okay,
and he's on the side of the road. And he's starting to change the tire, and they do one fake scare where it looks like he's going to get sideswiped by a car.
Of course.
But gets back, because of course he's stopped on the side of a road with a flat tire.
Yeah.
But as he's changing the tire, one of the lug nuts, he drops it, it falls off, it rolls under the car, and when they look at it, you can clearly see that it has rolled to the other side of the car.
Yeah.
Instead of going around the car and just picking it up,
yeah,
he climbs under the car, and it looks like the jack is going to fall, and the car is going to land on him.
Even before you finish each of your sentences, I know where.
Yeah,
it's.
Go. I mean, you see that, and like I don't know if they just rolled it too far and they just left that shot in, but you can clearly see it's not underneath the car. There is no reason for him to go underneath the car.
Yeah, they were like, we're losing time. We just got to go with what we got.
Right. Talking about losing time. After Ryan Phillippe, probably the biggest name in this movie is Jerry O'Connell, who's in it for 5 minutes with no lines.
Okay. Hey, but beer money's beer money.
Beer money is beer money. What I think, I've done a little research, it looks like his scenes were going to be the cold open because he is the prior owner of the box.
Okay.
Like, it looks like they were going to do the cold open, and instead they just shuffled it into the middle, and they cut out the parts where he had lines. Because what you learn is that the box, you get 7 wishes. Okay. After the 7th wish, little demon comes, takes your soul, you're dead.
Okay.
And, you get to see Jerry O'Connell, like, trying to hide from it, and it sets his house on fire and kills him, and you don't actually see the demon, but you see its work.
Right.
And that's kind of what happens with this movie. Even after knowing people have died, after accidentally killing one of her best friends over the box, she still makes the wish to have her dead mom come back. Which works. I thought they were going to monkey's paw it and have, like, zombie mom.
Right.
But no, it works. All of a sudden, she's got a mom and a new younger brother and sister. Because I guess with the mom not being dead, she'd have siblings.
So it didn't just bring the mom back, it made it as if she had never died?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically a new timeline. Yeah. And they heavily imply...
Was the Flash involved in this?
No Flash, unfortunately. That would have helped. They heavily imply at the beginning of the film that the mom had also been messing with the wish box. Because she winds up committing suicide. Which they don't, like, tell you that that's because of the demon. Like, the way I take it is she had, like, maybe 1 or 2 wishes left, realizes it's what's bad about it, and just kills herself to, I guess, stop the process and protect her child. They don't really get into that, but it's heavily implied because the mom's an artist, and she's got, like, drawings of the wish box that the girl finds.
Well, that's handy dandy.
That is, yeah.
Right?
It seems
it's like
also,
they just opened a trope book.
And also, it seems handy dandy. In the trailers, she has an Asian friend who seems to explain everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. He has a cousin that he takes her to see, and for the hefty price of wontons, she will do all this research into China for you. She also has a pretty great Final Destination death.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you this one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
In her apartment, she's got, like, it's a deer or an elk. It's some sort of animal with horns, and it's a statue.
Yeah.
Is it like the dead ones or like an actual just plain statue?
I want to say it's a statue, but it could be a stuffed one. I can't recall exactly the dimensions, but she's the one who finds out about the whole you have 7 wishes and it takes your soul.
Yeah.
And while she's trying to call her cousin to let the cousin know to tell the girl makes one of her wishes. Thunderstorm starts. She doesn't have cell service inside. She goes out to her fire escape. The fire escape almost falls. She drops her phone.
Yeah.
You think, oh God, the fire escape's going to fall with her on it. No. Coming back into her apartment, she trips eyeball first into the horn of the statue, into the antler. Just which is, again, Final Destination style rubric, Rube Goldberg machine death going on. So that's happening. Another thing is, the classic monkey's paw. She wishes for the popular boy to fall in love with her,
right?
Which he does to the point where she catches him taking photos of her in her sleep, and then she breaks up with him. So he comes back to her house and, like, slits his wrists because monkey's paw, the wish, but twisted,
right?
But anyway, so she's got her mom back, and this leads to the death of Ryan. Leads to his death.
I would have thought Ryan Phillippe would have survived.
Well, he does, because I'll get to that.
Okay.
So what happens is,
just when I thought it couldn't get any more ridiculous,
they're using a chainsaw to cut a branch off a tree, and the thing shifts. Chainsaw comes down. You get to see blood spatter, but you don't get to see the chainsaw actually hit him in the face, which is what they imply happens. And so the girl...
They saved a ton of money on special effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the 6th wish, and then the girl makes the 7th wish, and she thinks, oh, I can beat this, and she wishes to go back before they found the box.
Okay.
Which, that's decent logic. You think that would reset everything.
Right.
So Ryan Phillippe's back. He's got his sweet beard.
Mm-hmm. Barb is back.
Barb is back. Her other video game friend is back, who I didn't really mention because really her thing is she plays video games, and then she unfortunately dies in an elevator when it falls.
Okay. They couldn't get creative with it?
No, not really. It's just she's in it, and then it falls, and then all of a sudden you cut to her body with a piece of mirror glass in it.
Oh.
So, but they're back. She asked to go with her dad dumpster diving that day.
Yeah.
Hides the box, basically, does what she has, grabs the box, hides it, wraps it up, so he doesn't see it, because she still remembers it.
Right.
Goes back to the school, talks to the Asian kid, and gives him the box.
Dong from Kimmy Schmidt.
Also, Claire, the main girl, is Channing Tatum's daughter from White House Down, if you want to know who she is.
She's also Beezus in Ramona and Beezus, if any of our listeners had seen that.
So this actually does have, some stars.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Not big stars.
But,
I like how two of the people we don't say, we just Dong and Barb.
Yeah.
Right? So she gives Dong the box. And during the film, they've kind of been flirting with each other, but this is recent.
To the actor, I'm sorry, I know you have a real name.
Sorry, I just want that embroidered on a pillow. She gives Dong the box.
Yeah, right.
We are a family-friendly show here, Mike.
There you go. My bad.
We know you have a real name, but when your first big notable role is Dong.
Yeah.
So she gives him the box and plants a kiss on him. Because they'd kind of been getting romantic. And you think, okay, maybe it's going to work out. Then, again, channeling the first Final Destination, she steps off the curb and is immediately hit by a car.
Okay.
And it's driven by the popular girl, which is just kind of weird circular poetic justice.
Yeah.
And she's laying there and she dies. Because the little evil Chinese demon will always get you in the end.
Okay.
So
after you told me all this,
because I definitely have questions.
So then I asked,
one thing though, before we get off Wish Upon, I was looking.
We're still going to be on this.
I was looking it up last night, looking at some notes, trying to refresh my notes for today.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, this screenplay was on the blacklist.
Okay.
The blacklist.
Yeah. No,
for those who don't know out there in listener world, the blacklist is every year it's a poll from industry insiders like actors, writers, directors. Mm-hmm. They read and they vote on what they think are the best unproduced screenplays of that year. Some notable screenplays that have spent time on the blacklist are things like The Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah. There are plenty of them. Just look it up. Look up the blacklist. You'll see a bunch of movies you've seen.
But don't look up the blacklist show.
Right. Yeah.
That's not the same.
Yeah. But anyway, apparently this was on the blacklist, and I can't believe that this was on the blacklist.
I bet you it was probably better.
Oh, I think so. Like I said, like the Jerry O'Connell thing, I think was the original cold open.
Yeah.
I think that whoever edited it, bought it, played with it, like they twisted things. I forgot to check how many writers they had during the credits, because that's usually a sign. If you've got, teams of writers, that's usually a sign something's getting played with. Because it's an interesting premise.
It seems like it would make a good independent short film.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you just treated it like The Monkey's Paw, like we talked about, because that's a classic.
Well, I think when you, not like it had my interest anyway,
right?
But when you told me like the deaths were Final Destination, it's like, oh, well, that almost makes it cartoony.
Yeah, they just opened a big book of horror tropes and just like, let's pick random pages.
Yeah, I mean, several reviews that I looked at after I saw it all pointed out that, this isn't really a scary movie, but it's great for, midnight movie kind of camp fun. Yeah. Like, it's one you'd put on with like the ginger dead man, like
Right.
where it's maybe trying to be.
Don't be putting down Gary Busey.
Oh, I'm not putting down Gary Busey. Oh no. No, it's one of those.
Yeah, he is the scariest part of that movie.
He is. No, but it's one of those where it's like, you know, it was trying to be scary, but it winds up being more camp.
Right.
That was my question to you first, but when you told me all this, like, so I take it it's not very scary.
No,
Not in the least bit.
Not in the least bit. There are a couple of times they do like the jump scares, the violin stings, which I would not consider those scares. That's more I'm trying to startle you.
Right.
You don't scare me if you come up behind me and bash cymbals when I'm not expecting it. You have startled me.
Right.
You know, like honestly, the scariest moment for me, if there was one, would be Barb's death. Because literally it comes out of it legitimately kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's a legitimate accident. It's not like this weird Rube Goldberg machine. They're fighting over the box, and she shoves her down some stairs.
Right.
And, you know, that's
could
the thing.
happen.
You know, and you've seen people live from that before, but you've also seen that kill people.
Yeah.
Like, that was the most, or at least the closest to, like, a legitimate kind of scare or unsettling moment. Like, the other ones, once you realize the game, once you realize, oh, they make a wish and then somebody dies in a kind of insane fashion.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily looking to be scared. You're waiting and watching for the jump scare sting because, you know, somebody's tripped and eye planted into a statue.
Right.
Or crawling under a car.
Yeah, or crawling under a car.
So I have some follow-up questions.
Right.
I would like to hear your question.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to possibly talk about the use of time travel, because that always annoys me when it's done wrong. But first, from the horror point of view, and from the monkey paw and stuff like that, do we know, is it ever explained what would happen if you don't make the seventh wish?
No.
Okay.
It's not explained.
So she could have just simply not.
Well, it's not explained, but like what happens is, as I said, like she becomes like a drug addict.
Right.
Like she gets into a fight with Barb because Barb takes it from her house and hides it in her locker, and she's literally yelling at Barb, "I need it. It's mine. I'll, you know." And this is after
teenagers.
This is literally after one of their best friends has died because of her.
Yeah.
So you would think that would be enough to be like, no. So there's no.
So they do realize that the deaths are caused by.
After, I think it's about halfway through. After about 3 or 4.
Okay, yeah, I can
they have
imagine
realized because the first couple,
Yeah.
she doesn't realize like it's an unfortunate coincidence. Like she makes the wish and then her uncle dies. Like they think it's just a bad, and he's an old man, so it's they can. And she doesn't find out about the neighbor until she's made like 4 wishes.
Okay,
like the neighbor dies second, but then she doesn't actually get to her house until like a week later.
Okay.
Like in movie time.
Yeah.
But yeah, she suffers no repercussions. The assumption, I guess, and it's not like Drag Me to Hell where she's getting tormented by the demon.
Right.
Like, if Barb had been able to just take the box and I guess bury it in a park, I think that the girl would have gone nuts looking for it.
Right.
Possibly, unless like she went cold turkey, like a heroin addict.
So really, we're blaming Barb for all this.
Right. Yeah. Barb for not doing her job.
No, I would still place the blame on the girl because she's aware of what it does and still making wishes. And at that point, you stop necessarily sympathizing with her, or it makes it harder to sympathize with her.
Okay. So,
which is a huge thing for me with horror movies, which we can get into a little bit later.
Is it explained if the box is indestructible?
Yeah, they try and destroy it. Okay. They try and set it on fire. It doesn't do anything. Yeah. Which is why at the end of the movie, what she does is she gives it to Dong and says, "Go hide this somewhere. Don't tell me where. Just go bury it in a field somewhere, please. Do this for me." Yeah. So the idea is, just to hide it somewhere, and I guess she thinks that she's going to try and put it out of her mind, or she will put it out of her mind.
What did?
Yeah. Knocked it right out of her mind.
But no, there's no. She tries to destroy it. They can't. It's just this indestructible box, and and there's no real there's no real like haunting or anything. Like the demon isn't like scaring her at night.
The demon's not telling her to make the wishes.
No, like that, it legitimately functions like a drug addiction.
Okay,
which is kind of an interesting.
I like to think that probably was not in the original screenplay. I like to think it sounded scarier.
Actually, the drug addiction part might have been.
The drug addiction part I think
more interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like the drug addiction part does seem interesting to me because think about it. You know something is terrible and it's destructive, and it's killing. It is. It's like an addiction. It's killing your friends. It's killing people who care about you, who are trying to help you, and you keep doing it. Like that could have an interesting nugget to it. Like more so than your standard. I'm a sad teenager, so I'm going to make these wishes, to be popular and to have the hot guy like me. And
because the victim choice was another question that keeps popping in my mind. Is there a proximity to both the character emotionally and physically on who ends up dying?
They tend to be people she knows.
Okay.
And are close to. They don't get into it with... Which leads me to wonder if the mom has realized that it's people she cares about, and that's why she hung herself, because she was worried that maybe if she made another wish, it would be her daughter.
Right.
So, but it's... Like, the first thing that goes her dog. Her pet dog. Then her uncle. Then her neighbor. And then, like, her best friend. Like, it's people
she knows.
It's and, yeah. The only one that's, like, kind of tangential is Dong's cousin.
Okay.
Which, that one I could make the argument for that one. By that point... You're like 5 wishes deep, and that's the demon trying to take out their source of knowledge. Because she's calling Dong with the message. Yeah. The Chinese that we couldn't translate is saying that after 7 wishes you lose your soul. So I could see that one as him, the demon, just being like, well, we've got to get this loose end out. Right. But the rest of them are all, they're people she's like close to.
So if you're like a introverted recluse and you find this box, you're good.
I mean,
you don't know,
possibly, or it could do like, or it could do like that famous, Twilight Zone, the box episode, where it's like press the button and you'll get $1 million. But someone you don't know who, someone will die. So there's always that move. But no, they kept it to where it's people she cares about, people she knows, and all that.
So, and before we get on to our other main topic of the day, I do want to ask...
You seem to really know your horror movies. You know the exact questions to ask.
Well, and that's when I want to ask the annoying time travel question in this. So you say the mom comes back. Yeah. Is the girl the only one who knows that it's weird that the mom is back? Yeah. So the entire world's timeline, at least within their little world, has changed to make the mom being there normal.
Yeah. But Barb is still dead.
Barb is dead at this point, yes.
Okay. So, but that, even Barb aside, because Barb just likes to die. So, then so it kind of follows a rule, a time travel rule, by doing that. The person who made the wish is the only one who knows. Yeah. I can flow with that. It's not perfect, but it will work. So then if you make a wish to go back before you found the box, that negates everything that just happened. Yeah. So the ending does not make any sense from a time traveling point of view then.
Well, yeah, the time traveling thing's a little weird. I suppose the argument would be is that that's the 7th wish. Yeah. Since it is the 7th wish, it will do a hard reset, but it's still coming for you.
Yeah. And do they try to kind of make it towards the end like, there could be a sequel with Dong as the...
No. Okay. No, like, they set up where, like... He has no idea what the box is or does at that point because they've gone back to before the box was found. Right. All he knows is that she gave him this box and was hit by a car and died.
But we do know he has the resources to find out.
Yes. About that. I mean, he could be like, why would she give me this right before she dies? This is weird. Oh, it's got Asian writing on it. I'm gonna go see my cousin Gina. Bring her some wontons. Yeah.
And then we have part 2.
I mean, you could ostensibly have that happen, but let's not give them ideas.
Right. Yeah. No, there's enough Paranormal Activity movies out there.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: How could this have been a more effective film?
Yeah, I like the way you worded that too. Just as a film, how could this have been better?
I would say, more realistic.
Sometimes, after I see certain movies that I did not particularly enjoy, I like to think, well, if they had done this and that, and maybe switched this up, add a little more here, we could have had something going, but they did not. So
more realistic deaths, like
so make it rated R.
Yeah, we'll make it rated R, but it doesn't even necessarily have to be gory. Like it's just more realistic, not just these weird sets of circumstances happening. Like if the uncle had just fallen and hit his head and that was it. Okay, that's a tragedy, but that's like a reasonable one. But the whole hitting
or stop it, or maybe stop at the drowning.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or you slip and fall or something like that, or you hit your head, or something not normal, but normal, basically.
Right.
Or rather than the weird, oh God, is the car going to fall on him? He's just in a car accident. If you wanted to kill Ryan Phillippe.
Or the sideswipe thing. I mean, that
or the
happens.
sideswipe thing.
Yeah.
But so that's one thing. I would have liked a little bit more focus on the drug addiction thing. I think that could have been interesting if you fleshed that out.
Because that also, there's almost like the little metaphor for losing your soul in that.
Yeah, exactly. Part of the problem is this movie is it bills itself as 90 minutes long, but with horror movies especially, I time the credits. The credits are almost 15 minutes. So in actuality, it's like barely over an hour of actual film.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not enough. That's not really enough time to kind of dig into the characters as much as you'd like, which is a problem with horror movies, which we can get into at some point, is the lack of full characterization. But yeah, I would say more realistic deaths, focus on the drug addiction aspect, and go for a more kind of creepy, kind of with that you can get into a more creepy, more unsettling atmosphere. Like, have them be trying to figure out, the wish box, realizing what it does and trying to get it from her, like, some sort of intervention type thing. I think those honestly are the two biggest things, and give it more time so you can flesh out some of the characters more, of course. Yeah. But like, those are the big things I think could have made it a lot scary and a lot more relevant. Like the idea of drug addiction, the idea of like you just said, Beard, losing your soul, which the box will then do to you. So it's that kind of thing. Dealing with addicts. How
was the acting from Joey King? She's the girl.
Yeah.
So did she make it?
Is she on your celebrity crush list?
How old is she?
You sound like Mrs. The Beard there.
I know her sister is.
Yeah.
But I only asked because if you already have a weak-ish script. Weak-ish production. Yeah. Sometimes your star can make it tolerable. Yeah. Not good, tolerable. And if the performance is not up to it, it's just keeps going.
So it's not awesome. At the beginning it's okay. Like, she does well with like I don't recall them saying what year her and her friends are, but they're not seniors. They're like sophomores or juniors. They're younger. They're old enough to drive, but they're younger. Yeah. She does all right doing that, but like once the wish thing starts happening, and once she gets really kind of addicted to it, like during the fight with Barb, where she's yelling, "I need it!" It comes off as just really fake and whiny. It sounds more like a whiny teenager rather than someone who's in the throes of something horrible.
Right. Like, hence why you maybe think if they fleshed it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break on that note there, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about just horror movies in general, and we will be right back. And we're back. So I am a horror fan from way back. Mike, you're a bit of a horror fan yourself.
And I am indeed.
And TeeVo, though, not so much.
What sparked this next topic of discussion was the last episode I was on. I presented the It trailer.
Right.
What are your thoughts? I assume you had thoughts. Yeah. And you said something that sounded interesting, that a lot more movies are focusing on story now. Yeah. Which I think is a great thing. But you didn't sound as enthused as that.
Yeah.
So
from just talking about the horror genre.
Yeah. So I would like to have elaboration on that.
Okay, so I'll take kind of the side of spectacle. I assume you want to take the side of story importance, judging by your review on the Monkey Wish Master Hellraiser. Yes. Once upon a time. So what I was kind of getting at that episode was that story is great, but that's not. I'm not going to go to a horror movie strictly for the story. I'm mostly going for spectacle. Can spectacle be overdone? Sure. And I think for this discussion, we need to mostly focus on part ones of movies, not so much sequels, because I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, Mike. there's not really been a well done horror franchise.
I would argue that Scream, for the most part, is well done.
Okay.
I have issues with part 3, like part of that being that they had a different writer and there was a different flow. But I would say, overall, I think it's a fairly well constructed one. Like comparing that to, say, Friday the 13th,
right?
Which is mostly a collection of stereotypes, go to a cabin somewhere, and then are brutally slaughtered.
Yeah,
which can be entertaining in and of itself, but I would say Scream does a decent job.
Yeah, and the irony of you picking that one is Scream is discussing horror movies.
It's the meta horror kind of narrative thing.
I also assume you are not including that horrible TV show MTV did.
They're still doing.
They're still doing?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've not watched it, so I can't comment on it. It's on my Netflix to eventually binge. But are you telling me I should not?
If you get
from what I hear,
yeah,
it's not really made for your demographic.
Right.
It's made for.
We are way too old.
Kind of like their Teen Wolf is not made for those of us who enjoy watching Werewolf Michael J. Fox play basketball.
Yes. Yeah, their Teen Wolf. That is. It's by name only. Is that
different demographic?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
Both in age and gender and everything.
Gotcha.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, MTV is not looking for us for.
Yeah, they're not. They could care less what you think.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, do you have any particular movie that sticks out to you that you'd like to kind of use as a comparison for this, or like?
Well, it's an interesting one, because I thought about this, and I've got a bunch of notes on things that I think are important in horror movies. If we're talking specifically story versus spectacle, this might be a bad example because it does have spectacle because of its amazing use of practical effects,
and they all should.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Well, I also think horror movies should, unless there is some extreme reason why you don't, you should always try for practical effects.
Right.
That's much better. But one of my favorite horror movies is The Thing.
Okay.
In part because of the incredibly tight.
Now, which version are we
talking about? The John
about?
Carpenter's Thing.
Okay.
The incredibly tight, incredibly well-constructed story idea, and the fact that each of those characters is fleshed out. You get a sense of Child's Windows, McCready. You get a sense of Gary. You get a sense of all the characters. But I'll give you a comparison of two. We can come back to The Thing because I can talk about that all day. But I'll give you another comparison,
and we will one day.
We will.
Yeah.
I'll give you a different comparison of story versus spectacle. The Ouija movies. Have you seen either of those?
Yes. Yeah.
So the first Ouija movie, it's your collection of high schoolers.
Yeah.
High school stereotypes, whatever. They play with a Ouija board and they all die. Meh. Not a great story. Kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
And then you've got its sequel, which it's a period piece. It's dealing with a family. They're dealing with trauma. They're dealing with trying to save the daughter who's been possessed by that. I think that's a better story. I think it adds some weight to it. And I mean, if you just look at Rotten Tomatoes scores, the first Ouija, 8.
Right.
Second Ouija, 83.
Yeah, a little bit of a difference.
That's a massive jump.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is the story. I think story's important in horror, at least to the point of giving us good characters. Now,
because if you care about them, you will care if they, something bad happens, right?
I was just rewatching Cabin in the Woods, and they actually, they talk about, Bradley Whitford.
You love the meta ones, don't you?
Yeah, I do enjoy the meta ones. But Bradley Whitford's talking about the main final girl in that, and he's like, I feel bad for her. I feel like I'm almost rooting for her.
Yeah.
And that whole thing is that the virgin, the final girl, whatever you want to know her as, has to suffer and then maybe come out of it changed, come out of it different.
Right.
I think it's important in that we care about the characters because if you don't, then, while it's fun to watch a bunch of teenagers drink, do drugs, have sex, then be brutally macheted, sometimes
I just call that a Wednesday.
There you go. sometimes you want to care about the characters. If you don't, then you don't care that they die. You don't care about what's happening to them.
Yeah.
And why should you if they're not giving you a reason to?
And I'm already seeing a big difference in the way you and I view horror movies.
Have you seen Lights Out?
No.
Just by chance? No. That does a good job of setting up characters. It's another one that's a little short for my taste, but they take the time to set up characters. And they establish the main girl and her boyfriend. They establish their relationship, and the boyfriend is willing to help deal with this monster that he doesn't really understand, he doesn't necessarily believe in, but he knows it's troubling his girlfriend and her girlfriend's little brother.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'll be there, I'll help you out. And I saw it at the Savannah Film Festival
Okay.
They did a screening of it with the director, and I saw it for a second time there. And you're in this full theater. I'm in this full theater full of people, and at one point, the monster's attacking the boyfriend, and the monster can only attack in darkness.
Okay.
And he's outside. He's grabbed. He literally takes his keys, presses the key fob, and does the unlock, and those lights cause the ghost to dissipate, and the entire theater lost its damn mind.
Okay.
Because you cared about the guy, and you're like, oh God, we want him to escape. We want him to somehow get out of this. And he somehow pulls off this nonsense.
Yeah.
And does so. So I think that's important. Like, I'm with you. Like, I like the spectacle. I like that. Another film series I enjoy, if we want to talk about, Saw. I like those movies. Yeah. They drop off considerably after the third one.
Yeah.
Once Tobin Bell is gone as a regular character, they drop off considerably. Yeah. But, like, he as a character is such a compelling person. And they do a decent job, at least in the first three movies, with your main characters kind of giving them a story, giving them an identity to where you care about them. You want to see if they can escape this weird hellhole of a trap. And they give you a good villain that you can kind of roll with. But,
and see, that's the side I'm on. That's the biggest difference I'm already seeing just from what you like in your horror movies. I'm on the side of the villain.
Right.
Mostly because they tend to represent something. Where, with a lot of characters, there is a lot of stereotypes and stuff like that, especially like in the slasher films and stuff. But you take something like the first Friday the 13th. Well, for one, Jason's not the killer. Spoiler warning. The mom's the killer. But it's not that she's randomly killing people. She is killing, for lack of a better word, sinners. These are all people who deserve to die. And I'm behind the mom during this, which is one of the reasons that I tend to root more towards spectacle than towards story. Because I don't want to...
What I have not seen Friday the 13th. I know all about it from people like you. Yeah. But it still sounded like a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a well-made movie. I was going to interject.
Well, that's why I'm definitely going with the first one.
See, I was going to interject, though, I would argue that movie and those movies and, say, Elm Street and things, those would fall under a franchise rule.
Okay.
Like, with the franchise, you're spending more time with the villain, and you can have that happen. Whereas... For me, if you're doing just a standalone horror movie, then the story is more important. But yeah, I can.
But you can watch, especially like Friday the 13th. You can watch that one movie, by itself, and not see any of the other ones.
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, I will give you that with Nightmare on Elm Street. You do kind of have to follow Freddy.
Yeah. I mean, I think spectacle and story are important. Like, I think it will depend on the kind of movie. Like,
because I know. I have seen some of your collection. You have some pretty awful films, but you like them because of a certain camp factor.
Yeah.
They're not all, they don't have to be all like thought-provoking winners, but you can spot a dud easily.
Yeah.
When it just fails on, story or spectacle.
Yeah. Because talking about comparing story and spectacle, look at, for example, the first Halloween film.
Okay. Which you are familiar with, right?
I love. Yeah, that's one of the great one. I don't know the franchise, but I love that one.
And another one that you can watch by itself.
Yes, I can.
Go back and rewatch that sometime, dear listener. There is no real spectacle. There's not a lot of gore in it. I mean, the deaths are treated very realistically. He is treated very realistically, unlike in later editions. But in that first one, it's just a guy who's evil, and we don't really know why. We don't necessarily get it, and that's where I think the story is important. But you can go overboard with story, because I'll bring up the Rob Zombie movies, which took a lot of time trying to explain child Michael Myers, and you don't need that,
right?
And that was a thing in the mid-2000s.
So that was the thing that the character development was not important.
No. Well, that was a thing too in the mid.
You're maybe not for him. Like maybe if you want to talk about like Laurie or something. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but you don't need a whole first 45 minutes of a movie for that.
But I mean, that was a thing in the mid-2000s. Like, if you go back then, like, they were rebooting all these classic movies and then trying to give us the killer's side.
Yeah.
You know, that...
Which I was already on the killer side.
The Nightmare on... Well, I mean, like, the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, they want to make Freddy kind of sympathetic and maybe he was innocent and misunderstood.
Yeah.
Or...
But totally wasn't.
No. Or the Texas Chainsaw where he, you know, all of a sudden he, like, turns into Batman and kills the evil sheriff.
Yeah. Which
led to the great line of where she throws them a chainsaw and says, "Do your thing, cuz."
Yeah.
Which also, that one is just horrible for getting the timeline wrong, but we'll leave that for another day.
But to kind of go back on Halloween, I think there's also different levels of spectacle. Mm-hmm. Because you take a character like Michael Myers, he has to have that expressionless mask.
Yeah.
But still look like a face. That separates him from his compeers, Freddy and Jason, right there. And also, he has to have that particular stature to him. He has to have that slow walk. And all of that I do consider part of spectacle.
Okay, well then I'm all right. I'm following.
I'm not just including things like, you know...
It's not just, oh God, how gory is this when he gets ripped open?
Yeah.
That sort of a thing. All right, well then then I'm definitely with you on that.
Yeah.
Because, it's, you know, you mentioned the gate and everything like that, and it's to get to the meta... you know, to play with that, you know, these things that have become tropes at this point. And there's an interesting thing that happens in the first Halloween that's become a staple of Michael now, and it's, you know, he kills the one person and he tilts his head. Right. Just slightly tilts his head. And it's that idea of just somebody who's kind of watching, who's got this weird fascination with watching the life leave somebody, and that just makes it creepy. That's, if you're counting that as part of spectacle, then I'm with you, because that's...
Because that's why I'm saying spectacle can also go too far, and you get a heavy CGI horror movie that just becomes comical at that point.
Like the prequel thing.
Right.
Which just completely disregards how the thing actually operates. Instead of it being, you know, silent and sneaking and getting you when you're alone, it's, oh God, they half suspect me, and just starts trying to eat everyone. Which is, you know... terrible. Yeah. Plus, they get away from the practical effects and go all CGI on it. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Now, one mini franchise that I will kind of have to agree with you a bit with character is my favorite of the horror franchise, and that's the Evil Dead anything. Yeah. Right. 1, 2, Army of Darkness, the series, all that. As much as I love the Deadites, and that is all spectacle, no matter which version you're looking at. There's no character with that. I root for Ash.
Oh, no, it is all Ashley J. Williams.
Yeah, but it's because of his character. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially like in the series, because in the series they have had time to flesh him out.
Oh, and, I just finished doing a rewatch of the series about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's all, and that's Bruce Campbell, too. That is the indomitable chin that is Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. Because in the remake, I only cared about the Deadites. I really didn't care about the people in the cabin.
Oh yeah, well I mean that was set up that way, I think, to a little. Though I'm interested to see, because they've hinted that Mia and Ash are going to cross paths, so I'm interested to see how that works.
Groovy.
But very groovy. But no, you get that fleshed out character with Ash, and you get in the series, you know, you get that this is something he's been doing at that point for 30 years. And,
right.
You know, he's tired and he's old and he's fat.
Yeah.
He's got one
actual
hand.
Time has passed.
Yeah. He's got one hand.
Yeah. Now, do you have any particular movie where spectacle has trumped character?
I gotta think about that one for a second. Spectacle has... I mean, honestly, for me, the easiest example would be the Saw films.
Okay.
Because, as I said, once they start dropping off, you know, I would go see them because I wanted to see it through in completionist. But
because you wanted to be tortured.
Yeah. Well, you stopped. You know, the characters unfortunately become a little bit less interesting, and it's more, oh God, what sort of weird nonsense are they going to come up with?
But at least with that, you expected, unlike you know, Wish Upon.
Yeah, you expected that because because I've never been one for like the gore porn or the torture porn. Like, I saw the first Hostel and I was like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I don't ever need to see this again. Yeah. I'm good.
So I take it you haven't seen the second one.
I have not.
I take it you probably haven't seen a lot of Eli Roth's work.
I have not.
He has a very unique style.
Though I've seen both Cabin Fevers for whatever reason. Yeah. I've seen Cabin Fever, and then I've seen, though he didn't direct it, he produced it, the unnecessary, we're basically doing the exact same film, Cabin Fever.
The best version of Cabin Fever to watch is the Sci-Fi Channel censored version.
Oh, God.
It is hilarious.
Wow. Have you
So
seen?
I take it you don't watch that to be scared at all.
Oh, no. I watch very few horror movies to be scared. In fact, a coworker of mine once asked for recommendations for stuff that was actually, like, scary. And I was like, I'm at a loss. So I just had to recommend classic ones to them.
Some of them are getting better, like, in terms of actually being scary, or at least being tense and building that atmosphere.
It Follows.
It Follows is one. The Babadook.
Yeah.
Don't Breathe is just all about that atmosphere.
But see, Don't Breathe, I put that actually more towards the thriller than horror.
And I think that's where I can roll with the thrillers.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, like, thrillers like that, like home invasion movies would roll in for me as considered, like, things like Who's Next or The Strangers.
Yeah.
You know, people show up at a house and start terrorizing you. Like, I get that, the idea of thriller.
Yeah.
I don't know, I would count it as a horror movie for me. It falls within the broader spectrum of horror.
There can be a thin line.
It's like a cousin.
Yeah.
It's like a cousin.
Gotcha.
Like, it's the same.
Sometimes a kissing cousin.
Yeah.
Because, like, Darren Aronofsky has a movie coming out next month called Mother with Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence. I'm into that.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're billing it as horror, but I'm like, I mean, I've seen it, so I can't say it yet.
Right.
But already in my mind, it's like, it's thriller.
Right.
But it could be a good thriller.
Yeah, and you can have scary thrillers.
But, you know, and say, oh, the new horror film by Darren Aronofsky. Even I don't want to call
it's
it
horror with a small h.
But if it is,
yeah.
I mean, again, we haven't seen it.
Right.
Yeah,
It
fits. Yeah. I would argue it fits under the broad umbrella of horror, under the tiny subsection of thriller, or off to the side. If you will.
Yeah, I'm more thinking it's in the thriller umbrella in a tiny
little h horror. Yeah.
But I mean, you know, could be wrong. I could be in for a big scare.
But of course, we may talk about thrillers on a future episode. We got to wrap this one up.
Well, I have to wrap up, but you two keep talking.
Well, I do actually have some things I got to do, like eat my lunch.
Oh, okay. Well. So this could lead on to another day.
Yeah, I think definitely so.
So I guess since we're talking about wrapping up, let's just do that.
Yeah,
and maybe tease. So if you weren't paying attention,
and
if you also don't know the Ghost We Call Mike, The Thing is one of his favorite films, not just horror films.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Would I be correct saying this is one of your favorite films? Period.
Oh, it is. I would say, like, if you want to do my list, Big Lebowski's number 1, Thing's probably number 2.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of just top films.
This is why we keep having you as a guest, because you're number 1 pick.
It's one that I will watch once a year, probably, at least, and enjoy. Like, every October, I'm probably going to cycle through it, if not earlier in the year.
So we will definitely have an episode focused on The Thing.
So we're gonna try something new this season on TeeVo and the Beard.
Yeah.
So next week, the Beard and I were recording a special episode dedicated to True Lies.
Right.
Because we talk about it 1,000 times.
Yep.
Though we cannot commentary on the whole movie because we don't want to get sued.
Right.
And let's face it, do you want to hear us for 2 and almost 3 hours talking?
Comment, leave a tweet if you actually want to hear us do commentary.
But here's the thing: you can't hear the film.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
you're not going to be able to hear the film.
So you'll have to watch the film and sync up the podcast with it. And if you're willing to do that, I'm willing to.
We're willing to go.
Yeah.
But we're going to give you, say, the highlight notes of it. Like, good highlight notes.
Yeah.
But, whether or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, put it on Twitter. Do a vote thing.
Yeah, there we go.
But the next episode we're going to do, similar to that vein, is The Thing. Because I have not seen The Thing.
Okay.
Which makes me happy. Because I am excited to see TiVo's reactions to.
And just let's face it, I think if we're gonna get some gold comments, it's gonna be from you.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because like I said, from as long as I've known you, you have been talking about The Thing forever.
The Thing is your thing, is what you're saying.
It is a thing of mine.
So I'd like to see your thoughts whilst watching the film, because you've shown me clips. You have talked about it. I feel like I don't need to watch it sometimes because I've heard you talk about it so much.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like actually watching the film.
Indeed.
And then, of course, we will have a special episode about The Defenders.
Yes.
And eventually we will get back to our regular show.
I'm still drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't know the beard anymore.
Yeah. No, I think I accidentally picked up a Gatorade with The Defenders, but we'll discuss that when the time comes.
Yes.
So until then, see you next week.
And that's it for this week, folks. Thank you again for listening. And remember, you can follow us on social media. We are on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram,
and Facebook. All you've got to do is go to one of those sites, type in And the Beard, that's ANDTHEBEARD, and you're sure to find us. We hope to see you there. Have a great week.